Today we're talking about overcoming scarcity mentality. Oh, isn't that such a frustrating mindset to have? Let's get rid of it. How is it we can do some amazing and sometimes unexplainable things, like heal our own bodies by the power of our thought? Mother's intuition, the law of attraction. Can we really tap into our subconscious mind? Can we really create our own realities? It begs the question, are we novice gods? Hey, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a really fun documentary series. Really what it is this is my video journal as I have been discovering some things that have transformed me, that have changed my life from the angry, frustrated guy that I used to be to a guy that now believes in abundance, that the universe is abundant and that there are wonderful opportunities available to everybody all the time. This has been a huge change in my mindset for me, and so what I've done is I've filmed a lot of the things that I've learned and interviews with others to hear what they've learned and what they've discovered, and I present them to you so that you hopefully will have a leg up. Hopefully this will help you with wherever you're at and any frustrations or things that are going on in your life, that you can overcome them and have an abundant mindset. Now for me, well, first of all, for you, are you stuck in that scarcity mentality? Do you have that mindset where you never have enough and you're always worried that you don't have enough time, you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough money, definitely, and you're hoarding, your money and you're worried about it? It's a horrible way to live, isn't it? And if you've caught yourself that this is happening to you, you'd like to get out of it. Now, if you think about scarcity, like think about when you go to the beach and you could pull up this handful of sand, and it just seems like the harder you squeeze to keep that sand in your hand, it just finds more ways out, and you end up having less than if you were to just keep your hand out, scooped out with all of the sand right there. I mean, that makes sense to you, right? The harder we try to control things in our lives, the less we have them, and the more scarcity we really have. Anyway, let me share with you, can I share with you just a little story? This is kind of, anyway, this story happened to me when I was 8 years old. And it was a very pivotal moment of my life because it is what caused me to become a filmmaker. Well, when I was 8 years old, I remember I was sitting on my parents' green couch and I was watching TV. And this commercial came on, and it was about this kid about my age who was coming into his dad's home office, and he said, "Dad, are we going camping?" And the dad goes, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot. I got so much work. We're not going to be able to go camping." And the son leans on him a little bit and says, "Oh, that's okay. I understand, but do you mind coming out to the camper and looking and seeing what I did?" And the dad says, "Oh, sure." And he's punching away at the 10 key and still going. And, "Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, let's go do that." And as he goes out, he's, the next shot you're seeing the dad in the back of the camper, and he's looking around and he says, "Son, you've done a fantastic job. This looks great." And the kid says, "Thanks." Slam. And the next shot, you see them driving away. The kid has kidnapped his dad and they're off for a fun family adventure. I saw that and I was so excited. I said, "That's what I want to do. I want to kidnap my dad and we're going to have this time, just he and I together, and it's going to be so fun." And I ran down in the basement. Again, I'm 8 years old, super excited about this. And my dad, who was an architect, worked in the basement anyway, it was a very rough basement. It was never finished. It was just drywall, occasional drywall, and mostly studs. And if it did have drywall, it was just on one side, and so the other side had these exposed studs. Well, I remember looking through this hole in the door to, where my dad was working, and the reason there was a hole was because there should have been a doorknob there, and there's this giant hole here where I could look through and watch him, and I'm kind of hunched over, looking at him, watching, giggling, and then I see that this isn't like how it was on TV. My dad was there and he had his head in his hands and he looked tired and he looked worn out, and I kind of stopped giggling to myself, and I stood up and I looked around, and anyway, I looked at this unfinished basement, and this thought crossed my mind that said, Scott, you were so selfish that you would risk your entire family's financial jeopardy for this time with your dad. Because I look around at this unfinished basement, it's just cement down on the floor, drywall and studs, hole in the door. And finances were always rough for us. It wasn't just paycheck to paycheck, because he had his own firm, which was just him. So it was project to project, and you never knew when those project people would pay. And so anyway, I remember that at that time, just feeling like we didn't have enough. And because we didn't have enough, me wanting to do fun things with my dad would jeopardize our family's safety. He needed to work all the time just to make ends meet. Anyway, I went upstairs just feeling horrible about myself, because I felt this guilt and shame that just seemed to wash over me, feeling the weight of the family finances on my 8-year-old shoulders. And then I looked up from the green couch, and there was the TV, still on. Another show was playing, but I remembered that commercial. And I said in my mind, I'm going to grow up, and someday I'm going to create commercials just like that. And I'm going to earn my worth in the world, and I'm going to get rid of this shame, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and we're going to be able to do things as families. And I created this story and this plan in my life, some of which was good, and a lot of it was negative, because it was built on these bad beliefs that I had to somehow earn my value. I had to earn my worth, and that's bad math. And if you've ever had that, that's really bad. You got to get rid of those beliefs and those stories, because they'll just have you spiral down. So, but if you can understand, that's where I got my scarcity mindset. That's where I got this belief that we'd never have enough, and also that I wasn't enough, and our family wasn't enough, and I saw this big disparity between who we were and who other people were by the kind of cars that they drove, or the clothes that they wore, or the position that they had. And I built into my life this scarcity mentality. Do you have a scarcity mentality story that started when you were really young, that started before you were really old enough to process things? Where did your scarcity mentality start from? Where did your mindset about a lack of funds, or not having enough, or not being worthy enough start from? It's really helpful if you take time and meditate and pray and figure out where those stories originated from, because if you can address those stories, and if you can forgive that older version of yourself, like I had an experience where I forgave myself. I went back and I visited my younger self, just in my mind, but I saw what he was wanting to do. I saw that it was pure, it was kind, it was generous, it was good things. And I saw that he adopted these negative, unconstructive scarcity mindsets, not out of anything that his dad had done, but out of circumstances and things that he couldn't quite process. And I forgave him of that. And by forgiving him of that, I was able to move on and accept abundance in my life. I hope whatever story you've got in your mind that's been holding you back, scarcity of never having enough, whether that's time, resources, talent, education, friends, whatever not enough you've got, I hope you look back and forgive that. Now I want to share 3 steps for overcoming scarcity mindset. So first of all, the first one is flip the script. So when you have a thought come into your mind of, I don't have as much as so-and-so, or whatever the story is that's coming into your mind, I want you to take that thought and flip it. Just turn it on its end. And instead of focusing on your lack, say, I'm so grateful I have extra time today. Maybe you just lost your job, and you could say, well, I'm so grateful that now I have time today to serve somebody or to do something kind. You can switch it like that. Anyway, whatever thought of mindset of not having enough, take that and flip it around to something positive, something constructive in your life. And as you do that, you're going to recognize that you have more power to focus on what is really going to be constructive in your mind, if that makes sense. So another thing that you can do to really focus on abundance is to look at nature. Oh, this is a wonderful thing. Nature is abundant. Nature is not scarcity. If you look at grass, how many blades do you see? If you look at leaves on a tree, how many leaves are there? Is there ever not enough nature? And if you have water and you have nourishment and soil, good soil, all of these things just grow abundantly. At our house, we have an abundance of weeds. What wonderful things to show up, right? But in nature, things just grow and they happen, and there's plenty. There's enough and to spare, as they say. Well, anyway, if you focus on that, if you recognize that in nature, there's always abundance, therefore, in our lives, we can trust that too, and trust God's plan for that. Which leads us to kind of key idea number 3 is remember that you are God's child. And this is just kind of a mindset shift to get out of the scarcity mindset. A lot of times we think riches are bad, rich people are bad, wealth is corrupting, and wealth can be corrupting. That is absolutely true. But when you realize you are God's child, He wants to give you, like Christ said, it is God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. He wants to give you this abundance. And in the next life, whatever is going to go on there, that's what He wants to do. He wants to give you the riches of eternity. Well, in order for you to have that kind of abundance, you've got to not let it corrupt you. You've got to be somebody that is worthy and strong enough and skilled enough to have abundance, to not let it ruin them. What do they say? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. God doesn't want you to be corrupted. You are His child. He wants you to be able to have the riches He wants to pass on to you without having it ruin you. So if you kind of understand that mindset, that understanding He wants to give you these things, and so therefore scarcity is not in His program at all. He wants you to be wealthy now. He wants you to have an abundance, whether that's an abundance of friends or opportunities or options to serve or wealth or whatever. Anyway, He wants to give you these things, and the more that you can show that you can handle them and still be in a service, in a humble, in a kind, in a generous, loving mindset, the more it's going to serve you. So anyway, those are 3 key things to look at to get out of scarcity mentality, to have an abundance mindset, and to really live, I think, as God intended. What do you think? You've heard my thoughts. Now let's hear yours. In the comment section below, share what impressions came to your mind. What did you get out of this? If you have had thoughts to take action, please do so. Always listen to your inner voice. It's your ultimate guidance system. Of course, the best place to take action is at scottwilhite.com, because if you join me for a free web class, I will reward you by sending you my purpose planner so you can have a physical guide to help you get in touch with your inner guide. What if you are a God in the making? That would mean there's purpose to your life, meaning to your challenges. You have a great work to do. May you have the courage, faith, and power to become who you were truly meant to be. See you next time.